all the names listed on the screen and Kul Marhamin Al-Fatiha. Ayama Yujibun is requested for all the names listed on the screen and whoever is in need of it here and elsewhere. Let us all recite it together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على خاتم النبيين ورسول رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما على الإمام المنتظر وحجة الله الثاني عشر ابن العسكري المنتظر ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم القرآن الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا وإن الله مع المحسنين. صلوات. Into the second night of my discussion and the seventh night of the month of Muharram, and we continue where we had left off last night. And if you recall, the crux of our discussion would be based on the verse that we recite in the beginning: وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that, look, those who strive in my path, those who endeavor to come close to me, those who want to gain my pleasure and work towards it, لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. We ourselves will guide them to our paths and the paths that lead to us. We ourselves will guide them to come close to us. We ourselves will guide them to gain our qurbat. Why? Because وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, that whoever does good, إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, Allah is with those who do good. And if you remember last night when we were discussing, we had reached a point where we had, after this explaining the benefits of dua yastashir, close to just before the musibah, before the masa'ib, we had mentioned one sentence. And it is that sentence that I need to take up and continue from tonight. And that sentence that I had stated was this, that because God is Malikul Mulk, because He is the absolute power in the universe, He is the master of the dominion, He is the master of the kingdom, as a result of which He has brought this entire world into existence by means of that ideology and concept called the ideology and the concept of kun fayakun, as a result of which everything has been created by God by means of kun, the amr of kun, and automatically fayakun, that thing comes into existence. And it's exactly by this means that the entire world of existence has come into wujud. Having used this kun fayakun to bring this entire world into existence, what this means and consequentially means is that God is aware of everything that is there in this world of existence that He has created. He's aware of the secrets and the asrar. He's aware of the mysteries. He's aware of the various things that compose this universe, which people like you and me are left bereft of. God knows, and He's passed on that knowledge to specific elite individuals who are being given access to that kind of knowledge, who then use that knowledge to guide us. And those asrar are what we want to learn and see how we can use those keys that are used to unlock locks to make sure that our life in this world and the hereafter is a successful one. Locks of health need to be opened by specific keys. Locks of wealth need to be opened by specific keys. Locks of social interaction, education, problems, fulan. All these locks have certain keys which are the asrar of God. And those asrar we need to learn from the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, the elite individuals to whom God has passed that knowledge of, so that we can benefit from them. One of the sir, one of the asrar, one sir from the asrar. Sir means secrets. Asrar is the plural of secrets and sir. One sir of the asrar we mentioned yesterday in the form of dua yastashir, and its immense importance and benefits, such that the Holy Prophet told Ali, you need to make sure that you adhere to this dua sabahan wa masa'an, morning and evening. And not only that, you need to make sure that you pass on this information to one who is your Khalifa, that means the Imam after you, so that he adheres to this dua in the same way that you have been adhering to it upon my recommendations. So having learned that, we need to move forward. But today I want to give you one glimpse. We've been talking about the secrets and the mysteries and the divine asrar that take place or exist in the world of existence, which only God is aware of and certain specific individuals. I want to give you an example of what these sir that we are talking about and these asrar. One little glimpse so that you understand how these asrar are kept, and probably over the course of times we'll be discussing a few more specifically to how we can use these keys and secrets to make our life successful in this world and the hereafter. You see, when the Holy Prophet went on Mi'raj, now this incident has been narrated by the great Ayatollah Ali Akbar Nahawandi in his book Sharh of Dua Simat, in which he is referencing the Tafsir Ruh al-Bayan, from where he is narrating this hadith. So Ayatollah Ali Akbar Nahawandi in his book is referring to this tradition in another book, Ruh al-Bayan, where the author has mentioned this tradition. And this tradition goes like this. It's from the Holy Prophet. And after the Holy Prophet has gone from Mi'raj, Asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa. Surah Isra, Surah number 17 starts off. Once he comes back, now he's relating to the people things that he saw. Some of the things that he saw. A lot of things were mahram between God and the Holy Prophet that only Amir al-Mu'mineen was privy to them. People like you and me and the others were not considered mahram for those talks. So the Prophet, the Holy Prophet, comes back to the earth, and now he's saying, amongst the ajaib, amongst the strange things that I saw on my journey in Mi'raj was relating to those 4 rivers that Allah mentions in the Quran. Now you know that when Allah is describing the paradise in numerous occasions in the Quran, He refers to the rivers that exist, the 4 rivers that exist in paradise. And a very detailed explanation is given about these 4 rivers in Surah Muhammad, which is Surah number 47, in verse number 15. Ayah 15 of Surah number 47. Surah's name of the Surah, Surah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. The Prophet is saying, one of the ajaib that I saw was regarding these 4 rivers. Now, Surah Muhammad verse number 15, let me read out to you so that you know what Quran and Allah is talking about. It says, مَثَلُ الْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي وُعِدَ الْمُتَّقُونَ, that's the example of paradise that has been promised to the muttaqeen. Now he's going into a description, one aspect of the paradise that he's bringing forth in this verse number 15. He says, فِيهَا, in this garden, in this paradise, فِيهَا أَنْهَارٌ, there are rivers. Now rivers might be an understatement once you hear what exactly the Holy Prophet had to say, but let's look at the translation of the word. Quran says, فِيهَا, in this paradise, فِيهَا أَنْهَارٌ مِّن مَاءٍ غَيْرِ آسٍ, that in this paradise there are rivers, a river of water, and water of quality غَيْرِ آسٍ. That means the water that never goes stale, a water that continues to remain fresh, a water that is not saleable. It remains fresh always. Normally in this world, when you let water stagnate or remain without flowing for a while, it begins to stagnate, it becomes stale. You have different kinds of algae and fungus developing on it. It doesn't remain fresh. God says, "Fiha anharun," in paradise there are rivers of water, and the quality of the water is غير آسن, never becomes stale. وَفِيهَا أَنْهَارٌ مِّن لَبَنٍ, and there are rivers of milk. لَمْ يَتَغَيَّرْ طَعْمُهُ, and the quality of that milk is such that لَمْ يَتَغَيَّرْ طَعْمُهُ, its taste doesn't change. Milk, if you leave it for some time, goes stale. You go to supermarket to buy some milk, there's always an expiry date that beyond that you should not be using it, because then it does not remain salubrious, it does not remain healthy. It develops stagnancy, it becomes stale. This is the rivers in paradise of Laban, fiha anharun, and rivers of milk, lam yataghayyar ta'amuhu. The taste never changes, always remains fresh. وَفِيهَا أَنْهَارٌ مِّنْ خَمْرٍ لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ, and in this paradise there are rivers of wine, لَذَّةٍ, pure wine, non-intoxicating wine. What that is, we will inshallah understand once we reach paradise. Suffice to hear the translation. وَفِيهَا أَنْهَارٌ مِّنْ خَمْرٍ لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ, and in this paradise are streams and rivers of wine, pure wine, لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ, delicious to those who consume it. وَفِيهَا أَنْهَارٌ مِّنْ عَسَلٍ مُصَفًّى, and in this paradise there are rivers of asal, of honey, pure, clear, crystal clear honey, musaffa. The Prophet is referring to this verse and says, one of the ajaib that I saw when I went on Miraj was regarding these rivers, that is detailed out in Surah Muhammad verse number 15. He says, when I went over there in Mi'raj, I came across these rivers. He says, these rivers of water and milk and wine and honey, they were so vast and they were so incredibly expansive in measure that if I were to compare this world to that river, the comparison of the entire of this world that we live in and you live in, the Prophet is telling his companions that if I were to compare this world to what I saw of one river of water, or one river of milk, or one river of honey or wine, the comparison would be equivalent to comparing a needle dropped in an ocean. That means it is so expansive, each river, that if you were to compare this entire world, it would be in comparison to that as comparing a needle to an ocean. Still it is referred to as river in the Quran. So Quran says, the Prophet says, I saw each of these so expansive. I am dumbstruck. I was watching. I asked Jibreel. I said, Jibreel, where do these rivers of this expansive nature, where do they originate from? And where do they pour into? Where do they actually go down into? Says the Prophet says, I asked Jibreel. Jibreel says, Ya Rasulullah, I know where they end up, but the origins of this I'm unaware. The origins of this I don't know. But you are the Rasulullah. You have the ability to ask God and He will explain to you. The Prophet says, I was just thinking, what do I do? It's such a stunning scenario. That's such a massive expanse of these four rivers flowing by each other. And I want to know where they're originating, because even Jibreel doesn't know about it. Says, I was just contemplating when all of a sudden a malak comes, or an angel comes. Says, Ya Rasulullah, I have been asked to take you to the origin. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, close your eyes and I will take you. The Prophet says, I closed my eyes and all of a sudden I found myself flying. I found myself on a journey in flight. A flight, an experience so extraordinary that I cannot explain it to you. Now you need to realize, the Prophet here is now on a journey within a journey. He is on a mi'raj. Within mi'raj, now he's being taken before even he could ask God about the origins of these rivers. God made arrangements. And the Prophet is saying, I took off on a flight. And that flight was so amazing. The experience was such of a nature that I cannot explain it to you. He's just come from Buraq. And this Buraq is taken from the earth to the skies in a speed that you cannot imagine. Yet after having traveled with Buraq, and you know, the speed with which he went. Rawat says, when the Holy Prophet goes to Mi'raj, when he leaves his house on the Mi'raj, for going from Mi'raj and sitting on the Buraq, he leaves his house. As he leaves his house, he opens the door and leaves it. As he leaves it, the door begins to slowly vibrate on its hinges before it could come to a stop. That's normally what happens. In the olden days, the doors would move back and forth till it would come to a rest and stop. The Riwayat says this entire journey of Mi'raj, when the Prophet went, he opened the door began to move on its hinges, goes to Jerusalem, from there he goes to from Mecca to Jerusalem, to the first skies, to the second skies, to the seventh skies, goes to Sidratul Muntaha, goes beyond Sidratul Muntaha, the curtain of light, goes beyond that, so close to God that no other creature has gone so spiritually close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And having gone there, he's discussed numerous issues with God. God has exposed numerous mysteries of the universe, visits the heaven, sees the hell, comes back, and the Rawat says the door is still moving. He's traveled that distance with Buraq in that manner, and yet now when he's been taken on a flight to see the origins of this river. He says it was an experience I cannot express it before you. So imagine what it must have been after having gone through Buraq. Anyway, he says, all of a sudden I took off. It was an experience, I cannot describe it. And after a certain time, the angel says, Ya Rasulullah, open your eyes. He says, I opened my eyes, and what do I see? I see myself standing before a massive dome. A massive white dome made of massive, beautiful white jewel. Amazing. Breathtaking, awe-inspiring. And all I could see was that from this massive dome that was there came forth the four rivers from within. As I saw these, now you imagine, each of these rivers in comparison to the earth is like comparing a needle to an ocean. These are coming from this dome. Now you imagine how the dome or that particular sphere would have been from where this is coming, and how massive they would have been. The Prophet sees this, amazed, stunned, completely awe-stricken, and then feels that that's what he's seen. He says, all right, is it time to go? So the angel says, Ya Rasulullah, would you not want to go inside and see how these rivers are coming out? He says, yes, but how do I go in? He says, look, there is the door over there for you to go in. The Prophet turns towards the door, sees the door is locked. Turns to the angel and says, look, the door is locked. How do I open it? He says, I might not be able to open it, but you are the Rasulullah, you can open it. He says, how do I open it? See, these are the mysteries, yeah. These are the mysteries. At times, when it is said, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is closer, when you talk about Quran, when you talk about the ayats of the Quran, and you talk about the dhikr and the adhkar that needs to be recited to get close to God, one of the things comes is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And whenever the verse of Bismillah is discussed, one of the things that is usually said is that Rabat says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is closer to the Ismi Azam, the greatest name of God, is closer to the Ismi Azam, the greatest name of God, than the black of an eye is with the white of an eye. It's closer to the Ismi Azam of God than how the black portion of an eye is with respect to the white portion of the eye. That close. The Prophet says, how do I open this? I do not have the key. The angel says, Ya Rasulullah, for you the key is to recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Prophet says Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and the door is open, and the door opens. The Prophet goes inside into the chamber, massive. As he enters into the dome, as he enters into that spheroid, or whatever you might want to call it, he goes inside and he sees that the entire structure is being supported by 4 pillars. By 4 pillars. And from each of these pillars, one of these rivers originate. So from one of the pillars, the origins of one of the rivers is in each of the pillars. 4 pillars, 4 rivers: river of water, river of milk, river of wine, pure wine, and river of honey. These 4 rivers originating from each of these 4 pillars. Something never seen, the malakut of the skies being manifested before him, completely besotted, completely enchanted. The Prophet is just looking, what is this? What is the mystery of God, the power of God? Having seen these rivers gushing out from these 4 pillars, the Prophet says, having seen it, he says, all right, let's go continue my journey of Mi'raj. As he's about to turn, the angel says, Ya Rasulullah, have you seen what you have to see? He says, yeah, I saw these rivers coming out from these 4 pillars. He says, you need to look closer to see the power of God, to see the might of God, to see the qudrat of God, to see the secrets of God. He says, what are you suggesting? He says, Ya Rasulullah, may I request you to go closer to these pillars to see where these are actually coming from, the rivers. So the Prophet goes closer to these pillars, and he realizes that he's witnessing certain inscriptions on each of these 4 pillars, and from these inscriptions each of these rivers are originating. So I can see some writing on these pillars from where the rivers are originating. The angel says, yes, Ya Rasulullah, go a little nearer. The Prophet now proceeds further, and what he sees leaves him completely flabbergasted. What he sees leaves him completely flabbergasted. What he sees is that on each of the pillars there's a certain inscription. Having seen from far, he could not see what the inscription was. But as he comes near, he realizes on each of the 4 pillars there were 4 words. And from each of the words were gushing out each of these 4 rivers. On the first pillar from which the river of water was flowing out, he saw was written Bism, Ba, Sin, Mim. On the other pillar from which flowed out the river of milk was Allah written. On the third pillar from which flowed out the river of pure wine was written the word Ar-Rahman. And on the 4th pillar from which came out gushing the river of honey, clear honey was written Ar-Rahim. Bismillah, Bismillah, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. The four words in Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim were the sources of the origination of the four springs. The expanse of each was million times more than the size of this earth, comparable to a needle in front of an ocean. Now that he realizes, he sees this again, his astonishment and his amazement, his incredulousness keeps on increasing. The power of God, the might of God, and as he's just soaking this entire scenario and the new marifat that is being unfurled to him and unfolded before him by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of a sudden the voice of God reverberates in that dome, in that spheroid. It says, Ya Habibi. These are the four ni'mat that are coming out from the four words of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, my name of Rahmat and Rahmaniyat. Any person from your ummah remembers me and does my dhikr by means of these four letters of mine, when combined to form Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, on the day of judgment I shall grace them with the contents of these four rivers when they meet me on the day of judgment. Where Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, where every day we recite when we're starting our prayers, giving even not the slightest of thought as to what the reality of this Bismillah is. But as you go deeper and as you find out the malakut, the batin of each, you come to realize it's not just one verse, it's one of those realities that bring forth the ni'mat of God from each word of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That is why when it comes to the month of Ramadan, when it is said every ayat recited in the month of Ramadan is equivalent in rewards to the recitation of the entire Quran, one of the things that I tell in my lectures and before that my family members and myself, that in this month if a verse has to be recited constantly because of the rewards that it carries, then effort should be made that one should da'iman continuously recite one verse of the Quran at every stage, continuously, driving, walking, working, cooking, in the house, sitting on the couch. Recitation of a verse of the Quran, because every verse of the Quran will be equivalent to the rewards of one whole recitation of one whole Quran. And the verse that needs to be done in the month of Ramadan, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, because of its significance, because of its greatness, because of its closeness to to the Ismi Azam of Allah, because of its immense glory, which brings forth and gushes forth these four rivers, which in the eyes of God is such a great ni'mat that He's picked up those concepts and put them into the Quran as one of the descriptions of the greatness and the bounties and the pleasures existing in paradise. Now, these are the secrets I'm talking about. When Malik al-Mulk creates his universe on the basis of kun fayakun, then anything is possible and everything is possible. But having said that, these are the indications of the mysteries. What we need to know is that while these mysteries and the secrets and the asrar exist, we need to do something to benefit from these asrar. That is the crux of this entire series. That is the essence that we want to convey and discuss and teach and learn from each other and discuss with each other, so that I goad myself to do it just as I'm goading you to do it. And so, if you remember yesterday we mentioned that amongst the various taqibat of salat, one of the things are those four sets of verses. And one of the things I mentioned, point number 2, was Ayatul Kursi. I'm going to be cherry picking a few things because of the importance of those things. Recitation of Ayatul Kursi is one of the most recommended acts for a taqibat after every namaz. Something that is not just ordinarily to be discussed between you and me. This is something that the maraji', and it would not be a mubalagha, it would not be a hyperbole if I were to tell you, look, what a marja does in the confines of his house and privacy is his own work. Most of the times we don't come to know what is the discipline and the program of ibadat of these maraji and the fuqaha and the urafa in the confines of the walls of the house. We don't know, they don't tell us. But at times we come to know. Certain individuals ask. When they ask, then they're duty bound to explain to them. But let me tell you one thing. While the maraji might differ over the period of time, from Ghaibat al-Sughra till today, the maraji would change, the fuqaha would change, the urfa would change. But one thing that remains constant in their taqibat, even today amongst the maraji'in of today, one thing that remains constant in their ibadat after in the taqibat of namaz is the recitation of Ayatul Kursi. Whether it is Ayatullah Wahid Khurasani, or whether it is Ayatullah Sistani in Iraq, or Ayatullah Wahid Khurasani in Iran. I'm giving two examples to represent two different geographic locations. One thing that is constant is the recitation of Ayatul Kursi. This is such a constant amongst all these individuals whose discipline of ibadat, whose itinerary of ibadat have come to us, have become known to us. The constant factor is recitation of Ayatul Kursi after every namaz. And the reason for this is the immense and the profound impact and the importance this Ayatul Kursi after every namaz has on a person. Rabat says, a person who does mudavimat, who consistently and continuously recites Ayatul Kursi after every namaz, between him and paradise, the only thing that is a hindrance is death. This is how. The only thing that separates a person from paradise for a person who's consistently and continuously reciting Ayatul Kursi after his salat, every salat, is death. The moment death comes, he crosses over into paradise. The paradise of Barzakh till the day of judgment, and then the paradise of the Akhirat once the day of judgment comes. It's a person who consistently does mudawimat, constantly, continuously recites Ayatul Kursi after every namaz. It is as if he's done jihad with each and every single 124,000 prophets and has attained shahadat with them. All for what? For 5 minutes of reciting one verse, 2 verses, 3 verses, Ayatul Kursi. Hum fiha khalidun. Allah la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. Goes on, goes on, goes on. Hum fiha khalidun. Ulaika ashabun nar, hum fiha khalidun. It's a person who recites Ayatul Kursi at night. When he sleeps, God not only protects him, but protects his family and protects all his neighbors. At times when a person does a good deed, it is affecting and affecting only this person. But at times the importance and the profound impact of an ibadat is so massive and so expansive that it goes beyond a person of the personality of the person and encompasses all those around him. Ayatul Kursi is one of them. Reciting at the time of sleep. So not only God sends angels to protect this individual, but members of his family and his neighbors who are living around him. But when I mentioned the first, I said ajab. You want to see what is more ajab? You want to see what is more ajab? More ajab is this fact, that you've got the riwayat. Ajab riwayat this is. Subhanallah. Riwayat says a person who is doing mudawamat, who is persistent and insistent and consistent in reciting Ayatul Kursi after we're looking at the asrar of God in this universe, based on his Malik al-Mulk and based on kun fayakun. Riwayat say a person who is consistent and insistent and persistent and mudawim on reciting Ayatul Kursi after every salat of his. Riwayat say at the time of death, when Malakul Maut has that tablet in which the names of the entire people of the world of existence is there. And you know how it works, yeah? When the Holy Prophet went on Miraj, he asked Malakul Maut, after formalities and introductions, he says, what is this in your hand? He says, this is a tablet. It contains names of all the individuals. The Prophet asked, how do you know which person's soul to take? He says, the names of all the individuals of the world are in this tablet. The moment a person's time is up as decreed and ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his name disappears from this list. Once his name becomes dark, I know this person's soul needs to be seized. I go and take his soul. Riwayat says, when a person is consistently and persistently and insistently being mudawim and adhering to reciting Ayatul Kursi after every namaz, when the time comes for his death and his light goes off in the tablet of Malakul Maut and he's coming to seize the soul, a sound reaches him, Ya Malakul Maut, stay away, for now this individual, you will not seize his soul. I, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, myself will seize his soul, because this is that servant of mine who used to recite Ayatul Kursi after every namaz. You realize what this means? This is a trait, the trait of God Himself taking the soul of an individual is a trait common to whom? To Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam. At the time when Shimr with his dagger was sitting on the chest of Husayn ibn Ali and was striking it on his neck, Malakul Maut came to take his soul, but he could not get to see the soul. What reason, I don't know. But he turns to God and says, Ya Rabbi, how do I take Husayn's soul? Was it because of the rank of Husayn ibn Ali that made Malakul Maut shake in trepidation, that lest I make a mistake or a shortcoming in seizing the soul, I might never get a chance to seek forgiveness from God? Or was it because of the fact that Madloom Husayn ibn Ali was so covered with injuries from head to toe that Malakul Maut could not get himself to take the soul from which part of the body, when no part of the body was salim and sound and healthy, or whatever it be? Turns to God and says, God, from where and how do I take the soul of Husayn ibn Ali? At that time Allah says, Ya Malakul Maut, Ya Israel, move aside. This is beyond your pay grade. This is beyond your level. You do not take the soul of Husayn ibn Ali. I know you have been ordered by me to take the soul of people, but this is beyond you. Husayn's soul I will take. Ya ayyatuha nafsul mutma'inna irji'i. Irji'i, come to me. Not come to us. Come to me. I am going to take you with myself. Ayatul Kursi has the ability to impart that trait to an individual. Asrar of God and asrar of the universe. We need to be careful and we need to adhere to this. How long does it take to recite one Ayatul Kursi? All that it requires is 5 minutes of small time and a plethora of resolve and resolution. That's all it requires. If we cannot take out 5 minutes of our time after every namaz, with all the bounties and the benefits that we mentioned, and then we complain about what will happen in the akhirah, then we deserve to be complaining. But the question that would come over here is that, with all the benefits of Ayatul Kursi that we've mentioned, would it not be that this Ayatul Kursi could be misused? Could be misused and abused by individuals who are evil. They commit evil acts, and having committed evil acts, having done evil acts, they would resort to Ayatul Kursi for solutions, for solving off, for expiation. So they enjoy their lives and then they recite Ayatul Kursi and they start blank, a fresh slate, and then it goes on and on. Would it not be misused? All this enormous information and the rank and the azmat of Ayatul Kursi, is it not prone to be misused and abused by unscrupulous individuals who commit sins and evil acts and then take a resort and take a shelter with Ayatul Kursi to solve them of their problems, of the sins? Something similar was asked. Masumin replies, and the Riwayat and the Masumin say this. On a general Zabane Halbi might say that it was asked, but the Masumin have said, look, everybody will not get the tawfiq of reciting Ayatul Kursi after every namaz. Remember, Malik al-Mulk. Allah, Qul, say, O my Prophet, Allahumma Malik al-Mulk. You're the absolute authority in the universe. Even the tawfiq to recite Ayatul Kursi comes from you. And then once you give me the tawfiq to recite and I recite, then again you come into play and take my hand and take me into paradise. Everything starts from God and ends from God. Azal ilal abad. Always existing, always will continue to exist. Everything that comes from us to us comes from God, and everything that is given to us will always be returning to God. Would it not be used, misused? Rawat said there are four individuals who will not get. There are only four individuals who will get the tawfiq from God to recite Ayatul Kursi after every namaz. Every Tom, Dick and Harry will not be graced with this tawfiq of God. The Rawat say the first category of the people who has the tawfiq and the grace and the benevolence of God and the ability given by God to recite Ayatul Kursi to gain those fantastic rewards are the prophets. One of the prophets. The second individual whom God will grace with the tawfiq and the ability and the deservingness to recite Ayatul Kursi after every namaz is a person with whom God is pleased with. Quran says, Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. There are individuals whom God is pleased with them and they are pleased with God. And this does not only refer to the Masumina. There are individuals who are not Masumin, who are not even Shibhe Masumin like Hadrat Abbas and Bibi Zainab, ordinary mortals. But God says those are individuals, God is pleased with them and they are pleased with God. These are those individuals, God says we will grace them with the tawfiq to recite this Ayatul Kursi. The third group, the Rawat says, who will be graced with the tawfiq of God to recite Ayatul Kursi after every namaz are those individuals whom God has ordained for Shahadat. Those who will get Shahadat, those who will die in a state of Shahadat will be given tawfiq to recite Ayatul Kursi. And the fourth individual, you want to hear this? You do want to hear this. This is the fourth individual or the fourth category of people whom God will grace with the tawfiq that they are able to recite Ayatul Kursi. They don't forget. When you say tawfiq means what? Tawfiq means then you are now able to be so focused after every namaz that this doesn't slip out of your mind. You constantly and every day and after every salat 5 times a day you recite this. This is called tawfiq. It's very possible you might recite once, forget 4 times. The condition is to recite after every namaz. People might forget. People might get tired and then miss out. People might not have time to recite or whatever. But when tawfiq comes, whatever the state, situations will turn out in such a way that this person will definitely recite after every salat. The fourth category of people whom Allah will grace with the tawfiq of not missing out the recitation of Ayatul Kursi after every namaz are those who do not lie. Saying lying takes away the tawfiqat of God towards sa'adat and success and prosperity. Lying is a sin that is, in the words of the Holy Prophet, greater and more grave in measure than killing and murder and then fornication. Lying, worse than killing and murder, worse than fornication. Person who lies, God says, you will not get the tawfiq. Look at our lives that we live ourselves in. We take this to be so trivial. We're so nonchalant with regards lying. We consider it to be so trivial. The Prophet says lying is worse than murder. Lying is worse than fornication. Lying is worse than stealing. Rawat says a person who lies will be left bereft of the tawfiq of God to recite Ayatul Kursi and hence get those rewards. Leaving him bereft of the tawfiq means leaving him bereft of reciting Ayatul Kursi after every salat, which eventually and consequently means leaving him bereft of all those fantastic rewards that God has ordained for an individual who recites Ayatul Kursi. We're talking about secrets of life in this world to make our life in this world successful and the hereafter successful. I got this. So this is what it's all about. But while I want to take you to the second secret, because these are things that we need to implement in our lives. See, brothers and sisters, listening to something will never guarantee success in the hereafter. It's a misconception that listening to majalis will always result in success in the hereafter. Listening to certain things and listening about certain things about Islam will guarantee a success in the hereafter. Nobody's ever said that. Yes, what people in Islam says that what you hear when you put into practice, that's when you will be successful in the hereafter. What you listen in majalis, what you listen from the lectures. But I'm a small little student of Islam. But when the ulama talk and when we hear, just by hearing will never take us to those ranks of Allama Tabatabayan, Sayyid Qadi Tabatabayan, Sheikh Hassan Ali Nukhudki Isfahani and Ayatollah Behjat. Till we do not implement what we learn from the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. In our history of the ulama, you've got one of the most illustrious entities by the name of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hussein al-Amili. Now this name might not ring a bell so easily till I probably mention the name that he's more famous with and more popular with. The Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hussein al-Amili is also referred to as Sheikh Bahai. Sheikh Bahai, again, if it does not ring a bell, those individuals who go to Iran for ziyarah, and when they go to Iran for ziyarah, those who have heard or have taken the trip to Isfahan would now know this individual better. Because in Isfahan, one of the most ma'roof things that are talked about is the hammam, the great hammam of Isfahan, the general bath. In olden days, there would be a common bath, a general bath. People would go there to take a bath. The hammam of Isfahan, the characteristic and the amazing thing about the hammam of Isfahan was the fact that this entire hammam, with the colossal water that it had, was kept hot by means of just one candle. It's a massive structure, and the entire water in that colossal place was kept heated by means of one single candle. And the architect of this extraordinary wonder of the world, it's not considered to be one of the wonders of the world, but should be and ought to be. This one of the wonders of the Islamic world and the world of existence, this wonderful manifestation of architecture whereby an entire colossal structure with the water is kept heated continuously by means of one candle, was designed and implemented and constructed by none other than Sheikh Bahai. Sheikh Bahai. It was then afterwards the colonial powers came, amazed at how one single candle could keep this entire place warm, and they tried to remove it and reverse engineer the construction, and then they messed up so badly that neither could they reverse engineer what Sheikh Bahai had done, nor could they restore it back to its original form. That level of ingenuity was lost to mankind forever, brought to us by Sheikh Bahai. Sheikh Bahai was a mujtahid, was a faqih, was an astronomer, was a mathematician, was an arif, and he had expertise in ubur over spiritual sciences called al-ulum al-ghariba, supernatural sciences. A man of dhu funun, numerous skill sets, and all to the level of expertise. This Sheikh Bahai, man unparalleled in terms of his absolute expertise over various fields of sciences. Numerous books he's written on numerous topics, even in mathematics. This Sheikh Bahai has got numerous books to his credit. So few of the very important books is Al-Arba'in. Al-Arba'in of Sheikh Bahai, very important. Nafis book. He's got a book of 3 volumes called Kashkul. Kashkul of Sheikh Bahai. Very important book. Very nice book. Very Nafis book. But there is something that I want to tell you about, an incident that is related to Sheikh Bahai. This individual had numerous mulaqat by Imam Zamana. Numerous encounters and meetings Imam graced him with his ziyarah. When he was asked, Sheikh, honestly, between you, me and God, have you met Imam Zamana? being put under the oath, he says many times, not just in the state of sleep and wakefulness, mukashifa, but also in the state of absolute wakefulness when I'm actually setting my physical eyes upon the physical body of Imam Zaman Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Contemporaneous to the life and the living of Sheikh Baha'i, there was numerous scholars. Listen to this incident, because what I'm taking you next is based on what this incident has to say. Just want to tell you the maqam. This scholar says, who was contemporaneous, living at the time of Sheikh Baha'i, says, one night I went to sleep. In my dreams I see Imam Zamana coming to me. Imam Zamana comes to me in my dreams and orders me, Ya Fulan, Ya Fulan, pick up the book Miftahul Falah, pick up the book Miftahul Falah and do istinsaq, copy it. In the olden days there was no what we call a printing press. They would, if they wanted to copy a book, they would do istinsaq, means they would copy the book by hand. So if they wanted 3 copies, they would copy the book by hand by writing it 3 times. No printing press. Says Imam Zamana comes to him in his dreams and says, pick up the book Miftahul Falah, copy it and spread it out and distribute it amongst the people. He gets up in the morning. Now this was an alim of known fame. He was a man of research. He gets up in the morning. Imam Zamana has ordered me about this book. But he says, I start thinking. Which book is this? I've never heard the name of this book before. I've never seen this book before. I'm a man of academics. I'm the man of research. I write books. I read books. I've never heard of this name before. So he starts looking into his library to see, has he a book by this name that he might have missed out amongst the thousands of books? Couldn't find it. He says, I began to think, what is this book? Has it ever passed my mind? Can I remember what it is about? What is the mawdu, the topic about? Who's the author? Come to a dead end. So I visit some of my colleagues who I know are researchers. Says, this book Miftahul Falah, have you heard about this book? Says, no. Do you know the author? No. Do you know about what it is? Tafsir, fiqh, aqaid, mantiq, logic, philosophy, what? Says, we've not heard about it. One friend, he doesn't know. 2 friends, he doesn't know. The entire group of researchers and scholars have not heard this name, know who the author is. He says, having struck a dead end with them, I started visiting the libraries. I would go to the library, start searching, researching, looking for this book, but everywhere I would go, I would come up at the dead end. Nobody's heard about this name. Nobody's seen this book. Nobody's heard about it. Nobody knows who the author is. Nobody knows about what it is. But the Imam has said, Miftah al-Falah, you need to copy and distribute it. Where do I get the book from? How do I copy when I don't have the book? Nor do I know who the author is that I can, by means of the author, try to locate and find the book. Since I was about to give up, and I suddenly realized, he says, I have not asked Sheikh Baha'i about this book. Probably he would know. So he says, I go to Sheikh Baha'i's house and knock the door. After the initial formalities between 2 alims, Sheikh Baha'i says, yes, tell me what has brought to you, how can I be of assistance? He says, Sheikh, have you heard about the book Miftahul Falah? I need that copy. As soon as he says this, Sheikh Baha'i, he sees Sheikh Baha'i take a jolt. And Sheikh asks him, what about this book? He says, I need this book. This alim is saying. Sheikh Baha'i says, but you couldn't be needing this book. How do you need this book? He says, yes, I need this book because I need to copy it. He says, how did you come to know about the name of this book? So the prophet, so that man is saying, that alim is saying, but why are you asking? Saying, the reason I'm asking you and the reason you see me surprised and astonished and amazed and and stunned is that this is the book that is written by me. This is only one copy of this book. I have just finished it. Nobody knows about this book. I have not said and disclosed about this book to anybody. I have just named this book Miftahul Falah. So what is surprising to me is, how did you know about it? And why is it that you want from me when I have just very recently concluded the completion of this book? It was at that time that that alim says, Ya Sheikh, last night or a few nights earlier, I was sleeping. Imam Zamana comes to me and says, pick up this book, copy it and distribute it to the people. Sheikh, Tuba lakum, glad tidings to you, because your book is of such quality and such khulus that it has caught the eye of Imam Zamana, and he has instructed me to pick up that book, copy it and distribute the copies to the people. Sheikh Bahai, when he hears this, begins to weep. But then after that, whatever it is, it's different. That's beyond our scope. The point that I want to tell you is this: that in this book that we mentioned just now, Miftah al-Falah, in this book there is a tradition, there is a hadith that I want to take you for the next secret, and that secret, inshallah, we will discuss tomorrow. What that hadith is. Hadith from the 6th Imam in this book of Sheikh Bahai, which is such a nafis book that it catches the eye of Imam Zamana, who comes into the dream of a contemporaneous alim and tells him, pick up this book, make copies of it and distribute it, because this book deserves to be distributed amongst the people so that they can know the contents of this book. The book by Sheikh Bahai, tradition of this book by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, brought by Sheikh Bahai, inshallah tomorrow. Tonight we've sat over here, we have to discuss about, we have to talk about the orphan of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Shah Qasim, Janab Qasim, Hadrat Qasim alayhi salam. I mean, you want to look into the life of the family of the Ahlul Bayt. You don't need to go to the adults to see the nature and the ma'rifat of the family, of this holy family. Look at the children and you will realize. Look at the children and know the ma'rifat, and you will realize what this family is all about. A 13-year-old child with the ma'rifat that cannot be compared by even a 25-year-old youth in today's times, or even adults of our time. Forget about the youths. People like me, what ma'rifat compared to? One sentence tells you everything, summarizes everything about Shah Qasim, Hadrat Qasim alayhi salam. When was this? Riwayats in the night of Ashura, when Imam Hussain alayhi salam has tested all his companions. When he's tested them, now he says, sit down, I'm going to give you glad tidings. He takes out the list of shahadat and he begins to call out the names. Habib, you're going to be shaheed tomorrow. Muslim ibn Awsajah, Muslim, you're going to be shaheed tomorrow. Zuhair, your shahadat is tomorrow. Saeed, be ready for tomorrow. You're going to meet your Lord. One by one, he takes the names of everybody. When the entire list he calls out to them, all of a sudden from the corner of his tent, a small little voice rings out. Oh uncle, and what about me? Oh uncle, what about me? Hussain turns to the direction of the voice, and what does he see? Sees the 13-year-old orphan of Imam Hassan alayhi salam standing with tears in his eyes. He says, hi Qasim, what is it? He says, Uncle Hussain, you've identified and named every single individual who is going to face martyrdom tomorrow. My name was not in that list. You did not call out my name. What about me or my uncle? Imam says, Qasim, come here. Qasim comes to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Imam Hussain takes him in his arms. He says, Qasim, tell me a sentence. كيف عندك الموت? How is death in your eyes? How do you perceive death? And it is over here that one sentence of Qasim puts all of us to shame. What have we done in the 3, 4, 5, 6 decades of life in this world? What marifat have we gained about God and the Ahlul Bayt? Look at this 13-year-old child. Kayfa indaka al-maut? Oh Qasim, how is death in your eyes? How is maut in your perception? And Qasim says, oh uncle, ahla min al-asad, sweeter than honey. How many of us could today, in this context that we are talking about, can say, I consider death to be sweeter than honey? But that is my aqidah and my marifat, and that is the marifat of Shah Qasim. Imam says, Qasim, you are going to be martyred. You are definitely going to be one of the martyrs, so don't worry about it. That entire congregation breaks up. Qasim goes to his mother's tent. Qasim goes to his mother's tent, the widow of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. All the recommendations given by the mother to Qasim. Farwa gives Qasim all the nasihat, all the recommendations. Tomorrow you have to fight for your respect and your esteem and my respect and my esteem in the eyes of Shahzadi Fatima, the holy lady Fatima Zahra, on the day of judgment. Qasim says, mother, let me get a chance tomorrow and I will prove my worth to you. The next day morning dawns and the fight begins. And every time a shaheed would come back, one of the very first persons to go to Imam Hussain alayhi salam seeking permission, always with folded hands, Uncle Hussain, please allow me to go to the battlefield. And every time Hussain would in some manner convey the meaning, oh Qasim, I cannot let you go. But why can you not let me go, uncle? I need to sacrifice myself and defend you. Hussain says, I cannot get myself to give you the permission to go to the battlefield because you remind me of my brother Hassan al-Mujtaba. You remind me of the memories of Medina. You remind me of the time when I would spend with your father, my brother Hassan al-Mujtaba. I remember the time when I look at you. I remember the time how your father and I used to play with the Holy Prophet. I look at you and I remember the times as to how we would piggyback both of the brothers onto the back of the Holy Prophet. I would remember the time whenever I look at you that on one lap I would be sitting, on the other lap Imam Hassan would be sitting in front of the Holy Prophet. I can't let you go, you're too precious for me, O Qasim. And every time Qasim will come back dejected and forlorn, how do I get my uncle to allow me to go? Now this time when he comes again, being denied the permission to go to the battlefield, he comes, tears in his eyes, into the tent. The mother sees and says, Qasim, why is it that you're not going for the battlefield? Qasim folds his hands and says, oh mother, I've been innumerable times to the Imam, but uncle is just not allowing me to go. It is at that time the mother recalls what Imam Hassan had said to her before going. Before passing away from this world, Qasim was probably just 1 year old. At that time, Imam had written something in the form of letter and tied to the arm and had said to Farwa, listen, a time will come when you find yourself completely engulfed in darkness. It will be as if you will find no way out, confusion completely overwhelming you. When you find yourself in that situation, open this letter because it will find a solution for you. Farwa tells Qasim, remember that I've been telling you about what your dad had said, what your father had said. What more difficult time than the time for today that you want to sacrifice yourself for the son of Fatima to Zahra but are unable to do so. All of a sudden, Qasim takes out the letter. He opens the letter. As he sees the letter, he kisses it. His face becomes flushed and radiant with happiness. Takes the letter, rushes to the tent of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, takes permission, enters, and before Imam Hussain could say anything, Qasim says, oh Uncle Hussain, now you cannot deny me the permission to go for the battlefield. Hussain looks, Qasim, what is it that you're saying? Why are you saying this? Qasim says, "Oh Imam, the letter from my father, you have to read this." Imam looks at the letter, looks at the writing of his brother Hassan ibn Ali. Memories of Medina come flooding back. Nostalgic memories of the Holy Prophet can't start coming back. Oh, the body of Hassan ibn Ali pierced with arrows start coming back to him. He looks at the letter, puts it on his face, kisses it. Now when he reads it, a letter to Qasim. Ya Qasim, O Qasim, Idha kana yawmu Ashura, when the day of Ashura comes and you find my brother engulfed with the enemies with no helpers, do not spend anything except that you go and sacrifice yourself in the defense of my brother. This is my command to you. As soon as Hussein sees the command of his elder brother, he realizes Qasim is now going to go away from him. Qasim is now no longer safe. He says, "Qasim, come here." Maqtal says, the uncle takes the nephew takes the uncle. Both hug each other and they cry so much. Hussein cries, Qasim cries, Hussein weeps, Qasim weeps. They cry and weep so much. Ghoshiya alayhima, both of them fall down in faint. Both of them fall down unconscious. I have not seen any occasion in Karbala in which Hussein became unconscious except this one occasion when he hugged Qasim and wept so much out of the memory of Qasim and out of the memory of Hassan ibn Ali that both of them fell down and faint. They get up after some time. Hussein says, "I'm going to dress you up." Calls Fizza, "Go to that tent which is a storage tent. Get me that box of my brother Hassan Mujtaba." Fizza brings that box. Imam Hussein opens the box, takes out the amama of Imam Hassan, puts it on Qasim's head, takes out a rida, puts it around Qasim's shoulder. "I will lead you to the battlefield. Helps Qasim get onto the horse and takes him out together to the battlefield. Abbas is there, Hussein is there, in front is Qasim. Tears in Hussein's eyes as the spurs of Qasim is going. Ravi says, "I saw this individual, a young boy, coming out of the tent of Hussein, getting onto the horse and moving towards the battlefield. I felt as if it was a piece of a full moon coming out of the tent into the battlefield." I'm bound to think, I'm given to think, if an enemy is looking at Qasim and is saying Qasim looked like a full moon on a full moon night, then what would be the sight of Qasim in the eyes of Farwa? How would have Farwa allowed Qasim to go to the battlefield? Qasim goes to the battlefield, does a lot of fighting, does a lot of jihad, kills a lot of enemies, till a Shaqi comes from behind, brings down his sword upon the head of Qasim. Qasim now cannot sustain himself on the horse. Qasim totters, falls down. As he falls down, he calls out to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, "Ya Amma, adrikni, oh my uncle, help me. Oh my uncle, help me." Hussein was watching. Riwayat Maqtal se, as soon as Hussein hears the istighasa of Qasim, all of a sudden he goes, "Oh my son of Hassan, oh the son of my brother Hassan, oh the orphan of my brother Hassan." He goes into the battlefield. Riwayat says, like a lion rushing towards the prey, like a bird of prey going towards the prey in full force, takes the sword, hits the hand of the person who struck Qasim. The hand gets severed and that person calls out. "Help me, oh my friends." As soon as his call of help were heard, the friends began to move from the left towards the right. Those who were there to the right comes towards the left, and in that entire melee, Qasim is not to be seen. Qasim is not to be seen. Ravi says, once all the dust settles down, what do I see? I see Hussein seated on his knees next to Qasim. Where was Qasim? Qasim's body was under the hooves of the horses that ran from left to right and right to left. That body of a 13-year-old boy under the hooves of these horses trampled to dust. Bones trampled to dust. Hussein is sitting next to Qasim. Hussein is sitting next to Qasim. Oh my Qasim, it's very hard for me. It's very hard for me to understand and to bear that you kept calling me and I could not call out to you. I could not reach out to you to help you when I have come. I cannot help you anymore. Oh Azadar, let me tell you, oh those who lament and mourn Hussein, there is a comparison between Hussein and Qasim. Both the bodies of Hussein and Qasim were trampled under the hooves of those warrior horses. The only difference remaining was this, that the body of Hussein was trampled after his death, whereas the body of Qasim was trampled while he was still alive. Every time a horse would step on him, Ya Amma, oh my uncle, every time he would call out, oh my uncle Abbas, oh my uncle Hussein, oh my uncle Abbas, oh my uncle Hussein, till a time comes when the voice of Qasim goes silent. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون ألا ولعنة الله على القوم الظالمين.
गठरी में लाश रखी हो लेकिन